As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Harry. Harry, that voice you hear, and Harry's been with us for about 4 years or so on the WNHH, and as a station manager. Good morning to you, and Happy New Year to you, Harry, and Happy New Year to all the audience folks, and particularly to Chantel, who's on the Chantel Potter and Bill Costen. Happy New Year to you guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
You know, I was thinking, everyone, in terms of the first show for the year, this is certainly a topical show and appropriate, but given I gotta be personal, just given the stress and turmoil and mental angst that I know I'm going through, I know everybody else is going through, this is the perfect show from my standpoint in terms of people kind of just taking a 52-minute breather in terms of passion, purpose, and product. And just thinking about what does faith and commitment and actually courage mean as we move forward. And we have Bill Costen here, as well as his daughter Chantal, to kind of illustrate what that means, and to illustrate with a visual sense, a musical sense. We're going to talk about the balloon film that will be video on demand, available in February. And really, Chantal and Bill, I'm not apologetic at all. This is a promo for people to do whatever you have to do to do the balloon man. And Chantal, as I say, is Bill's daughter, and certainly we all know in some instances, and not all instances, but in some instances that there's a love affair between daughters and fathers, and even if it's a love-hate affair. What I'm trying to make is that yes, the balloon film illustrates Bill's journey, but I think but as I watched kind of the trailer, Chantal, that you directed and produced out of your company, every moment from Bill growing up in the Midwest and going to Atlanta and then coming to Hartford, and just his work in addition to being having a national, and I would say an international reputation in terms of the accolades that he's received. But you can parallel your life when you watch this film. I'm urging everybody to just parallel their life. Where were they in college, or where were they in prison, or where were they when their first marriage? You can see these historical junctures and how people make decisions, but also just aspire to kind of be themselves and to be free and to be to share. You know, Bill is such a sharing spirit. So Chantel, I know I haven't said a single word that you don't agree with and that you haven't, and why you spent this lifelong journey. But kick us off a little bit about the Balloon Man. And I'm really so excited that reference, if you would, Gravitas being the distributor, and just so I want to talk about the business side is maybe after 20 or 30 minutes. But let's talk a little bit about Balloon Man, and we will give Bill a chance to say a few words. I mean, you know, we got to give the old man who was born in 1947, give him a little prop, senior citizen prop.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us on your show this morning, and Happy New Year to everyone listening in and watching. So Balloon Man is a feature documentary. It's actually my first feature-length film that I directed and produced and got through the distribution phase. So this film is on my father's life, basically his journey. Years ago, well, my dad has always been a storyteller. And from the very beginning, I just knew, just from the stories that I would hear him tell myself, my brother growing up, I'm like, Dad, you need a film on your life. You've done so many different things, and so many wonderful stories, so many stories that have really impacted and influenced my journey, my individual journey. And so, you know, I just started filming. I went to Howard University, studied television production, had a business minor. And that's where I started my production company in 2008, Made for TV Productions. And so I just picked up my camera and I really just started filming him, traveling with him to different balloon festivals up and down the East Coast. And I didn't know what I wanted it to be at the time. I didn't know it was going to be a documentary at the time, but as things sort of unraveled, I started interviewing him. I started interviewing some of his friends, family members, other balloonists within the community. And then I said, okay, I think this is unfolding to be a documentary. And, this has been a true labor of love. We've been working on this film for quite some time. And it's really unfolded much differently than I initially, thought it would. The film has taken a shape of its own. And as we continue to pull on different creatives, from animators to the gentleman who did the original music for the film, it's really just taken its own form. And so I'm really excited. We recently secured distribution through Gravitas Ventures. And we traveled, well, since this was a COVID year, most of the film festivals that we were in moved to an online virtual platform. So we participated in a few different film festivals. One of them actually in Cannes, France, the Pan-African Film Festival in Cannes, France, they did theirs in person. So initially it was supposed to happen earlier in the year, but they postponed it to October and they actually had an in-person event. So that was very exciting. We didn't get to go, of course, we couldn't travel over there, but we were there in spirit and we received some wonderful feedback. So this has been an incredible journey. I've enjoyed working with my father just very closely over the years with this project. Just tag teaming. He's a creative in it himself, and I think that's where I got a lot of my creativity from. So it's just been a fun journey.
Chantal, I guess before we go to Bill, we don't want to tease people. We want to tell them loud and clear, shout from the rooftops. February 2nd, something's happening in terms of a release or something.
Yes, absolutely. So February 2nd, the film will be released worldwide on demand. And so we're encouraging people to purchase the film from iTunes. We're doing a pre-sale before February 2nd, so that way you can have it. In this digital world, we will be selling DVDs and Blu-rays because especially people in the documentary space, they still go to DVDs and Blu-ray, believe it or not. But so we will be selling that on the website, chantalpotter.com/balloonman. But for all those who, like watching their films, on their smartphones or TVs, we're encouraging people to purchase the film on iTunes for the pre-sale. So that isn't up yet. We anticipate it being available within the next week and a half. So yeah.
Well, really great that we could help to get the word out early. Mr. Costen, I'm told you received some award, some international big cheese, high flyer, master, blah, 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 world. Tell us about this award. And I gotta admit, for you, those of you that are watching, I've known Bill last 10 years or so, not in terms of his balloon escapades, but his other escapades. And Chantel's alluded to some of those escapades, which we're going to talk about. He is a dear friend. But this award that you've received as a master you blew up a balloon or something. You blew up. What did you do to deserve such an honor?
Actually, it's actually a Lifetime Achievement Award in ballooning, and there were only about 30 other people in the world who had this award prior to me getting it. I got it in 2016, but that entailed 40 years of safe ballooning. And people who have Lifetime Achievement Awards, you just have no idea how it is to serve the public, because I always took up 6 people when I actually flew, people who bought rides for their anniversaries or or on birthdays or whatever. And usually most of them, it was their lifelong dream to go up in a balloon. So day after day, if the weather was right, you know, I would have people come to the field early in the morning, right at sunrise, and we would go for an hour ride or thereabouts. But the in and out, day in and day out for 40 years, dealing with the weather, you can't steer a balloon. So once you get up there in the sky, you know, I had 6 people's lives in my hand every single day. So me and the Lord were very good friends every single flight. And for doing this for 40 years, like I said, and safe flying, I was able to get the prestigious Ed Yost Master Pilot Award.
And Chantel, I'm kind of so teased with, we don't want to tell them everything about the production because we want them to purchase it. But even if I told them, even if we showed it, seriously, if we showed it right now for, I think it's 92 minutes in length.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's something that you want to watch more than once. Because again, for me, the parallel experience of just watching Bill's journey and life decisions he's made in his life and how they relate to where you are. And particularly, Bill, you referenced the, taking people's lives in your hands and being the custodian of them, and people taking that risk. It just dawned on me, Chantal, when you the footage that you captured from Bill at the award ceremony. Talk about that a little bit, because Bill gave some reference to his teammates. This was he was the lead, but he also had a team, and you know, we might get a chance to talk about the Buffalo Bills, but he's been a team player for so long. But to have his team, his cadre, his supporters, his people that loved him and that he loved, helped him in this 4-decade experience.
Absolutely. And I think that is actually a theme that you'll see in the film throughout his life. Because before ballooning, you know, football, you have to be a team player. Even after football, he got involved in, you know, he started this chess club in Connecticut and had, you know, I think some 200 people part of the chess club. He was president, and just bringing people together, and they participate in different tournaments, Martin Luther King tournaments and different things like that. He started a social club that brought people together. So this has just been a constant theme within his life. And then, you know, being the pilot and president of Sky Endeavors, which is his balloon company, just bringing people together and talking to some of his crew members. There was one woman, she had, her husband had just passed away, and it was her and her son. And she found, you know, family within this crew. And, you know, she had been crewing with my dad for 30 years. And this became her life, her son's life. So we all kind of grew up together in ballooning. And it's such a, you know, people don't know much about ballooning outside of the community. It's a very niche community, but it's a sport. It's a business. It's a lifestyle. Like, I grew up in a ballooning family, so you can travel all over the country and you'll see and meet other ballooning families. You grow up together. The kids will, you know, play and go up for rides and different things. So it's really a family experience. And, you know, we owe it to all of the crew members who put in so many years of work, and they were just diligent. They were loyal to the crew. They'd come out every single morning. Some people would get up at 4 a.m, go out and fly and be at their full-time job by 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then they'd come back after their job and go out for an evening flight when they were flying twice a day. And they loved it. No one was forcing them to do this. They loved it. It was just, it's such an experience. It's just something wonderful to be a part of. And we couldn't have done any, and my dad can attest to that. Like, his crew members, you know, he was the pilot, but you need every last person on the ground. You need that help. And I don't know, Dad, if you want to speak to that a little bit, just your crew and their loyalty.
over 40 years, I bet I had about 200 different crew members that would come out. Like I say, some would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, drive all the way to our takeoff spot, then follow the balloon. Some days they would actually go up for their ride, and then they would be at work, like you said, 7, 8 o'clock. So to have people want to do this, you have to treat them right.
Yes.
You always have to, like I said, it was a big family, especially at the balloon festivals. We would go away for a weekend. I remember one weekend up in Glens Falls, New York, up at the Adirondacks. I had 37 crew members who actually came up there. And we had a sponsor up there who we had for many years. And they would invite us to their house, and we would just have parties. And every year, the festival landed on Chantel's birthday. So we would have a birthday party for her in between the ballooning in the morning and afternoon. I mean, she was only 3, 4, 5 years old during that time. So we just had tons of fun with other families, with other balloonists all over the country.
And I remember every last party. They were wonderful.
Bill, reflect a little bit with this being the new year. It occurred to me, Chantal, also the serendipity of events. Share with folks that you got involved with this, not necessarily knowing what you were going, correct me if I'm wrong, what you were going to get involved with. But it was friendships that brought just new opportunities to you, new visions. And for the new year, I want that to kind of, for people to hear that in spite of the external global war that we're going through in terms of the pandemic, there could be, don't close your eyes to opportunities that you might not perceive to be, you may not even know where that door is opening, but you have to go through that door to find out what's behind the door or where that new vista is leading. So if you could share a little bit about how you got involved, because it seems to me from the film, Chantal, you mentioned that you referenced that mystery and Bill's saying, I don't even know what is a balloon? I mean, you're talking about love a balloon. So Bill, share a little bit about that serendipity of those friendships, and then how friends can bring opportunities to your doorstep.
Actually, I was watching a football game one Sunday, and the doorbell rang, and it was my cousin with his boss. They came in and they said, let's start a balloon club. I said, what's a balloon? And they showed me a picture of a Budweiser balloon. Mm-hmm. And I immediately saw the advertising portion of the balloon. I said, well, what does a balloon do? And they told me how you take people up for rides and you ride in a little gondola. But like I said, while they were explaining everything, I kept seeing that Budweiser label on the side of this big balloon envelope. Yes. I said, wow. I said, you can make money doing ballooning? And they said, yeah. So I said, so they said, let's start a club of 6 of us got together. We bought a balloon and we all went out for the first time to see what the balloon did. And I was sold the very first day when I saw that big balloon go up in the sky. We, you always have a chase crew who follows the balloon while you're flying. And wherever you land, the chase crew will follow you and pick you up. And then we usually go out for breakfast, or if it was the evening flight, we go out for dinner, and we come back to our starting point. So it was just an adventure, and every single flight was totally different, every single one. I mean, I've landed everywhere. I've landed on top of houses, on top of malls. I've landed in cemeteries, on the banks of rivers, actually in swamps. I remember one time we landed in the swamp in Simsbury. It wasn't the swamp, it was the landfill. Mm-hmm. We landed in the landfill in Simsbury, and it started raining, so we had to get all the equipment out. So we were trying to get to the fence of the landfill, and I had 3 little old ladies, and we got to the fence, and the fence was locked. So we had the crew push the car up to the edge of the fence, and we had to lift these 3 70-year-old ladies up over the fence. to get in the room. This was all in the rain.
Mhm.
And they loved it. I mean, they said they never had an adventure like that ever in their life. So each flight was not as dramatic as that, but each flight was a total different adventure.
But Bill, and that's really that story is really so great, and we probably won't have a chance to talk about your passion for Black history. Chantal's mentioned the chess club, not to mention the Buffalo Bills and then the Hartford Knights here in Connecticut. But I wanted to go back to, do you recall what your body told you? I mean, you said that you referenced, you saw the advertising possibilities, but again, this was a risk-taking venture. Starting any small business is a risk-taking venture, but starting a balloon, going to the balloon business, that's super maximum risk-taking. Do you recall, was it kind of a tingling sensation you had? Was it just something that the unknown inspiration, the pioneer spirit? Do you recall what kind of, because you were roughly like 30, 33, 34 or so. Do you recall
Yeah, about then.
Do you recall what was, did you get a tingling sensation? Was it just I know you've always been a man of faith. So I'm trying to be quasi-psychologist here, just get a feel for what was, did your body vibrate? Did you just see, I know you saw the marketing opportunities, but what psychologically do you think was going on at that point in your life?
Well, actually, on my first flight, I had an instructor, and I didn't know what to expect. I knew how beautiful it was watching the balloon go up,
yeah,
but I didn't know what to expect. So the instructor got me in the balloon, and he told me all the things that you got to do. It's basically one blast valve you shoot up in the balloon, and shooting the heat up in the balloon. So basically, he told me what to do, and just taking off the ground that first time, I said, "Wow, look at this!" And as I went up higher and higher, the sensation of what you see is what you see in ballooning. I mean, God created a beautiful world, and you see it all while you're up there in the air. So any fears that you have, you lose it because you're saying, wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. And that's what happened my first flight. I totally loved it. I said, I'm sold. And I was able to fly the balloon. He said, I'm not going to touch the burner at all. You're going to fly this balloon. He told me what to do. And I actually flew the whole balloon, that entire flight by myself. And that just gave me total confidence, yes, because that turned out to be a real nice flight. There are some flights you wish you had stayed in bed, but that particular, just a thrill of being able to just go anywhere. There was a saying in the balloons, people buy airplanes to go someplace. People buy a balloon just to go. Every flight, you had no idea where you're going to land. And that was the excitement of the flight.
Chantal, I could sense just in hearing Bill talk about the acceleration, and that comes through also in your when I say cutting and pasting, that's just for the common language to understand that the editing process, right, is really, and I was really intrigued with your editing process. But it seems to me that you convey this acceleration theme really throughout from Bill's, really the acceleration of leaving the Midwest and going to Atlanta, meeting Martin Luther King, the acceleration of your first touchdown as a lineman, and even the acceleration, Bill, of tackling somebody. I mean, that's a certain, we see you as being a very calm and mild-mannered person, but in terms of football, that's kind of, rumor has it, an aggressive sport. So how does one kind of balance this aggression versus peace, being an aggression person versus a peaceful person? Chantal, talk about that, and you see him balancing out those two instincts.
You know what? I've never seen that aggressive side of my father. I've always seen the peaceful side. So, and some of his crew members and interviewing them, they're like, how is he a football player? He's just this, this teddy bear you want to hug, just this big ball of love. And that's the only version that I've seen. So, I've kind of relived these experiences as he's telling them to me, and as his, cousins who he lived with during his time in Atlanta would describe him, just as this tough guy. And so, I tried to parallel the entire film. And you'll see when watching it kind of jumps back and forth. We go from ballooning, which is the overall theme of the film, but there are so many other themes within, and his journey of getting into ballooning and what happened that led him, to this career that lasted 42 years. And so, I've only seen that one side of my father. So just, it's been a delight hearing the different stories and kind of pulling that out of him, having him relive these moments. But it's been wonderful.
Well, so we'll do this a second, another show on his dark side, the dark side of Bill Costen, and we'll see what kind of is revealed. Bill, share with us a little bit, and it's really good to see you. You end the film with his medical situation and recovering from a stroke, and in the end, I will say, this is not a really giveaway, but you're walking, and I thought that was so fitting. You're walking towards Chantel in a spirit way. You're walking with an enthusiastic way. You're walking with a smile on your face. You're walking with I have done it and I can continue to do it. You're walking with there's a movement there, Chantel, and talk about what, as a filmmaker, why you decided to kind of conclude in that format.
I think that, and I say this, people watching this film, I think this film will initially kind of attract the ballooning community. But like I mentioned, there are so many other themes within. And my dad is a human, he's had ups and downs within his entire life. You'll see the high points, you'll see the low points. And it's really just, as all of us go through, it's a roller coaster. Life is a roller coaster. Mm. And so, I decided to end the film that way. And like I said, this film has been shot over a certain number of years. So after he got the award, I was like, oh, that's the end of the film. That's it. We got our ending and we're good to go. But, life continued to happen. And I felt like it was important to show, yet again, here's another road bump, but it's something that he has overcome and is still overcoming. Like that's the overall theme. Like everyone goes through things within their lives, and you can always bounce back. He has a strong faith in God, and really God has gotten this entire family and his entire crew, his entire career through everything that it's been through. So I thought it was important to show, the truth, and what happened, what has gone on since. But like I said, it's just another thing that he has recovered from even stronger. And, after the stroke, he got back out there and, you'll see he's a photographer. He has his traveling exhibit, the Costen Cultural Exhibition, and he continued to do that. I visited Connecticut once, and this was right after the stroke, but he was determined to get back out there and do his exhibits. So, at the time he was in a wheelchair, and, directing us on how to set up the exhibit. And, just that leader that he is, we're all there helping, getting it to where it needed to be. And since then, he did therapy and relearned how to walk. And, since then he has recovered so much. So I thought it was important to share that. And that was why I made that decision.
For sure. And again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show. We're talking about Balloon Man, which will be available February 2nd. And how can people access it again, Chantal?
It will be on video on demand. So we're encouraging people to pre-purchase the film on iTunes. We will also have DVD, Blu-ray, selling them on the website, chantalpotter.com/balloonman. And then, if you subscribe to any of the VOD platforms, you'll be able to watch it as well.
Bill, this is kind of well, I mean, not tremendously personal question, but to see your life, excuse me, to see your life on screen, that's a different experience. And your daughter did such a lovely job. I wanted to ask, what does it feel like? But that seems so cliche. But what does it feel like when you watch it? You've been at various, excuse me, at various film festivals, etc. But what does it feel like? In particular, I was amused when Chantal captured the parties that you held when you were in Atlanta, and your wife's comment you mentioned when you saw Linda, your wife, and her large afro, and so she really shared some personal vignettes that I think people can open up to. People can see in their parallel lives how they've experienced their journey. But what does it feel like to see yourself on screen?
That was for me.
Yeah, what does it feel like? I mean, it's such a.
I'm getting a vibration, so I can't hardly hear you. Okay, me watching. I've never really liked watching myself on film,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of people, have that. As a photographer, I go up in people's faces, smile, and some people. Love to see themselves, but a lot of people, have no, they don't want to be seen on film. So as I watch this film, I'm watching it from the standpoint of what my daughter did, because me and her walked this whole film all the way from the beginning. I've been a photographer all my life. She would call me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Bill, Dad, do you have a picture on Joe Jones walking down the street? And I would be able to pull up a picture to send to her right then and there. So I was watching from the standpoint of the expertise of her, how she put everything together with what we had, taking this and taking a little of that and putting it together. And I kept saying, I said, this isn't a film on me. This is a film on a young Black woman who grew up ballooning. I mean, you literally grew up. You were a little baby when you took your first flight. And to see her perspective of what I did and how she intertwined different things, I was just amazed at how she took this and took that and just intertwined everything and came out with a beautiful film.
And definitely the editing is superb. And Chantal's you referenced the animation and the flashbacks, and it's Bill's meeting Martin Luther King. So there's just so much there for people to put their ego aside and just enjoy Bill's life and see their life through his lens. Chantal, talk about some of the film festivals. In spite of COVID, the film has been screened at various film festivals, and I think people need to know this is you've gotten some street cred, some credibility here. So talk about some of the film festivals that you participated in. Again.
Yes, well, we had the honor of participating in the Rhode Island Black Film Festival, and that was this summer. And the film actually won Film of the Year. So we would have had an opportunity to do a nice drive-in movie theater situation a few weeks ago in Rhode Island, but it snowed. It's like the first time it snowed in the Northeast, and so it had to, they had to cancel the event. But that would have been a fun time. People were ready to jump in their cars and watch the film from their own individual cars. As I mentioned earlier, we did the Pan-African Film Festival in Cannes, France. And that festival actually happened in person, so that was special. We were a part of the Maryland Film Festival. We got accepted to the Maryland Film Festival, but it actually got rescheduled because they want to do it in person. So that will be a part of the 2021 Film Festival. the Chesapeake Film Festival we were a part of. And we also got Best Sound Editing in that film festival. And that was nice because Dad has a pretty cool ballooning story of him flying over the Chesapeake Bay. So I don't know if you want to quickly tell that story, Dad, but that was a nice little correlation to be a part of that festival. And he's actually flown over the Chesapeake Bay.
Bill, tease people because again, some people might like National Geographic magazine, they might like the Smithsonian magazine, or they might just like Essence or Ebony. But just to watch this film, if you don't even know what ballooning is, I mean, you mentioned gondolas, and that might resonate with some people. But yeah, share a little bit about the Chesapeake experience, because there's a pathos, there's a jubilation, and sometimes there's some thrilling and even some scary experiences in the film, and that's why I love it. So if you can tell that I like it, I like it. Okay, I mean, I think it's pretty clear by now. But talk about the Chesapeake experience.
In the beginning of my balloon experience, I was a participant in the International Professional Balloon Pilots Racing Association, and I was competing with all the top pilots in the world. And I was just a rookie. So this particular, it was the Preakness horse race. The balloon festival was a week before the Preakness. So we advertised the Preakness. So what we would do, put sponsors on the side of the balloon, and we took off from a park in downtown Baltimore. And the idea was to fly across the Chesapeake Bay. And when I first heard that, I said, fly across the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, like I said, all the other pilots, they were experienced, had a couple of them had thousands of hours, and they had actually more fuel in the I had a smaller balloon, so they had more fuel than I had. And all I could think of, riding on the ground, you had somebody chasing you in the car. So anytime you land, they pick you up. I said, well, what if we couldn't make it across the Chesapeake Bay? What's going to happen then? So we took off, and it's just total the unknown. There was fear there, but I was the Buffalo Bill football player in the race. How could a football player chicken out and not fly across the Chesapeake Bay with the other pilots? So I said, okay. I took off, and we got about halfway over, and the wind just stopped. I mean, you only have so much gas to get you over. The wind stopped. I literally had to go up to 10,000, just close to 11,000 feet, just to find another wind to take you across. Otherwise, we'd been parallel and headed down toward Washington, D.C. So I went up to 11,000 feet and found a little light wind that actually took me across. And as soon as I got land ho, I said, let me get down out of this balloon. And I found the first field I could find and landed that balloon. I said, all of a sudden when I was on the ground, I said, yeah, I flew across the Chesapeake Bay. I was bold then. When I was up over that water, I said, anything happens,
And you referenced there the navigation skills, which we aren't going to have a chance to kind of chat with, but people, you heard the word pilot, but yeah, navigation skills, pilot. You referenced kind of how you can elevate the balloon and descend the balloon. There's so many technicalities there that I think the layperson just doesn't even, it's challenging to even comprehend. So again, that's why you received the 40 years and received the international award. Chantal and Bill, we have another 10, 15 minutes or so. Should we talk about his curation? Should we talk about Linda's Big Afro? Should we talk about the parties we held in Atlanta, where he said there were no drugs, but a lot of liquor, perhaps? I'm just saying. Should we talk about his not a working, not playing as a high school student, a high school football player, not playing too much at University of Nebraska, and then going to Morris Brown and then being drafted. I mean, there's so many ups and downs in this roller coaster ride, and I'm just really fascinated with how the winds of life and the winds of change have, have lifted your wings, as they say. I'd like to spend the next 10 or so minutes.
I would say probably the Costen Cultural Exhibition, because that's really what he's been focused on lately.
And it's so important. So Bill, elaborate on that again, because we do have, believe it or not, an international audience. We're now 5 years in terms of broadcasting. Again, big thanks to WNHH for providing this platform. But your curation, people know about the Smithsonian, and they know about the African American Museum in DC, but they may know the name Lonnie Bunch, but the name Bill Costen is also worth knowing, quite frankly, friends, in terms of the time and passion and the investment in your really celebrating Black life in all of its glory and pathos and accomplishment. Share a little bit, if you would, about your curatorial I wouldn't say episodes, but it's been more, there's been like 10 to 15, 20 seasons, Chantel, of his broadcasting Black life before even more, in my mind, more important than BET, more important than the National Newspaper Publishers Association. But I digress. Bill, jump in and rescue me here. I'm a fan club member in so many ways. I've seen your exhibits of golf and Black history and Black Panthers. And so just share a little bit about that part, that slice of your life.
The Costen Cultural Exhibit?
Please.
Okay. Actually, how that came about, I had no Black history when I was in Omaha, Nebraska. And it wasn't until I got to Atlanta and my uncle, who was good friends with Martin Luther King, took me to lunch with Martin Luther King. And so I started meeting all these icons in the civil rights movement and going around to all the football games and visiting all the different HBCUs. I saw, it was a culture shock. I saw the whole South, and I was able to capitalize on saving items that I was finding in the South. I was meeting, I met Julian Bond the very next week after meeting Martin Luther King and Andrew Young, and living with my uncle and aunt for the 2 years. They grew up and they didn't grow up, but they lived the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s in South Carolina, North Carolina, and in Atlanta. So they basically taught me Black history. And from that, I just had a passion for teaching other Black people who may not know their history, Black history. So I started collecting items, from the South and everything. Then I got to Connecticut, where I was starting to go around to different shows, sports shows. I think the very first sports show I went to, where they were selling baseball cards and football cards, but it was a haven for any sports person. And I didn't see any Black kids there. There were a lot of white kids and white dealers and everything, but I never saw any Black kids at all. So I said, well, they would love this. So that's when I started collecting sports items. And I remember the very first show I did was at Weaver High School. I took my exhibit to Weaver High School, and there was always a bunch of kids, maybe 20 kids that came in, and they had no interest in what I had set up. I had Martin Luther King and other things. They had no interest, and they sat over there. I said, well, did you look at this table over here? And I showed them the table on hip hop. They went around the hip hop table. They said, oh, wow, look at this. And every single show that I did, there was always somebody who saw something in that show that just motivated them. I saw this one guy, he was just crying. And I went over and looked at it, and he was looking at the Ku Klux Klan exhibit that I had there. It turned out his dad had been hung by the Ku Klux Klan. I've had women, I have 4 women, granddaughter, daughter, mother, and grandmother, all looking at Lena Horne and singing the songs. So I actually covered 400 years of history in this traveling exhibit.
Yes.
And I started doing it around to NAACP dinners and companies and different schools. And I understand now that Connecticut will be, I think, the first state to mandate Black history in schools. I think it starts in 2022. So I'm hoping that my exhibit can be part of that, where people can come in. Because if I set up the whole exhibit, a 10-year-old can come in and start with Africa, go all the way around the room, and literally visually see all of history, from the civil rights, the military, the Olympics, the sports, music, Motown, whatever. I just set it up where a person can visualize. Picture says 1,000 words. Well, I have 100,000 pictures. So that in a young person, a young child's mind, you never know what can become of that.
That's so important. Chantel, I guess get chills when I hear Bill talk about that. I've seen some of the exhibits, like Charlie Sifford and things like Black Golf that you wouldn't necessarily know about. But it's so inspirational. As a filmmaker, Chantal, how do you just say a little bit more about that? You're okay. You're muted. Bill, you referenced the
Oh, I'm off mute. Okay, sorry, my daughter was crying in the background. That's why I went on mute. But yeah, no, I definitely think that it's important for young Black kids to see images of themselves. And, one thing that we've been doing with this, the promotion of this documentary, I've done 4 different sessions, basically Zoom sessions, panel discussions with different experts and influencers and friends, just to talk about some of the themes within the film. And one of the panels, it's called Knowledge is Power. So the series is called Beyond Balloon Man. And this particular episode is Knowledge is Power. So we have the social media strategist from the NAACP, and he's a special assistant to the president of the NAACP. We had an educator and musician who actually did one of the songs during the Martin Luther King sequence, Contavious Jones. He was part of the panel. And then we had Senator Douglas McCrory as part of the panel. And he was a big part of that, that mandate for Black history by the year 2022 to be in the entire Connecticut public school system. And I think that's very important because growing up, we didn't see ourselves in the history books. And if you did, it was just about slavery. Mm-hmm. But, African Americans have done so much more than that and continue to do so much more. And I think the more that we see, the more that we can visualize, the further we'll get as a people. And I just think that's important, just to share our stories and just inspire and motivate, this next generation. So, I love what my dad has done with the exhibit. I haven't seen all of the interactions. Like he's been able to sit there at each exhibit and just see how people kind of just interact with the exhibit, interact with the different panels. I've seen a couple, and from what I've seen, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Absolutely. I know, Bill, there's been a little bit of a social media push here in Connecticut for people to kind of understand that your curriculum needs to be incorporated. They don't need to look far. They don't need to look away. They can just cast down our buckets where we are, and you've dug some deep reservoirs of knowledge for us to maximize and to share with all the school systems throughout Connecticut. No question about it. Chantel, maybe share a little bit about your team. I mean, you have Joe Young, you have your co-producers, you have some of your directors of photography. Share some names for people to kind of understand that this is, yes, you're kind of the lead and the face, but there's again that teamwork theme kind of comes through. So give a little shout out to some of your cast of characters.
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, so I mean, Michael Taylor is one of our producers. He's been there from the very beginning, and he's just been a tremendous help. When we had to fly to Nebraska to shoot, he was on the flight, ready to go. So he was our director of photography and producer on the piece. Capella Fahum, she came on later on in the project, but she has just been a tremendous help, tremendous resource. Joe Young, him and his team came in when we needed more funds to basically complete the film, which was a big thing that kind of helped the film up. He helped us throw a huge fundraiser at my dad's hometown church, and we were able to get the funds that way to finish the film. So that was a tremendous help. Errol Weber, he's actually won an Academy Award for a documentary that he was a director of photography on. So he helped shoot a few scenes within the film. I had a wonderful colorist, Harry Locke IV, and he has just been a total help throughout the end of this process. Like I said, I've done films before, but this is my first feature film. And it's such a, getting it through that distribution phase, you have to deliver the film. I didn't even realize what went into delivering a film before this. So there are literally a million different pieces, from the legal aspect to the E&O insurance policy that you have to get. So, he's been a tremendous help because he has done this before and gave me a lot of great advice within actually coloring the film beautifully. My animator, his name is A.K. Roy, and he's a very talented gentleman, and he's actually based in India, but he is, some of those sequences that you see in the film, the flashbacks, where I wanted to go from, real life footage flashback into the 50s or the 60s. He did a great job with, a lot of those parallax animations and the original characters that he created. So it's just been wonderful. And I have a great team, and I am indebted to all of them. I couldn't have done this film without every last one of them.
And that comes through so much. And we have about 2 minutes or so to go. Chantel, but I really appreciate your sharing. When people hear of Spielberg or Spike Lee, I mean, when you watch a film, you see all these names as the credits that will roll at the end. But it is an effort. It's a collective effort of really significant proportion. So to bring all that together is so key. And Chantal, just elaborate a little bit more, because I had that same question in my mind about not necessarily the transferability, but the continuation of the motif, the continuation of this project. And so you referenced you had some focus groups. People can find the film how again?
Well, people can find the film on VOD come February 2nd. We're encouraging individuals to pre-purchase the film on iTunes. And we will be selling the DVD and Blu-rays on the website, chantalpotter.com. /Balloon Man. But leading up in the first 2 weeks before February 2nd, please look out for the series Beyond Balloon Man. It's actually a 4-part series, and we really focus on the different themes within the film. So it's kind of like basically a Zoom call, an hour-long discussion with different experts, different influencers. And we just want to kind of touch on some of those themes. So even if you're not completely sold on hot air ballooning, we wanted to find a way that we can touch other audiences, and maybe that they can, have something that they can relate to as well. So please look out for that. That will be on the website as well as YouTube, and we'll be pushing that series leading up to the February 2nd release date.
Excellent. And that's what occurred to me, that it has there's a linkage. This is not you hear this term, proverbial term, one-off. This is not a one-off at all. This,
Right,
this has some legs and some links. Bill, that music means that we're out of here. But if you want to share just a few more words, that would be great. Mr. Costen, last parting word.
I'm just thankful. I've known you all these years, and I'm just thankful that you took the time out to honor my daughter. I just love her to death, and I mean, I'm just so thankful that I was able to help her achieve one of her dreams.
Indeed.
I really think she has a whole lot more dreams that will materialize as a result of doing this.
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you. And she's flown high in the early years, and for everyone for 2021, let's fly high. Let's be safe. Let's do the navigation. Let's understand there's perils and pitfalls ahead, but kind of do your homework, do your planning, equip yourself, work on your skills, and most importantly, keep the faith. Definitely. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Little by little, they joking, telling some riddles. Now I'm in my section, ain't willing to give up. Know you getting knocked down, but you gotta get up. I'm never gonna give up.